Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today we are going to start something new as we are going to give some eyes to X-Plane 12. I've got a lot of comments under my videos saying how good the flight model in X-Plane 12 is, so I thought I need to give this a try myself. Now, when I first bought my copy on Steam, I unfortunately encountered significant issues with it in that it constantly crashed to desktop, that the performance was very bad and so on. So I decided to delete the Steam version and I got the free demo version afterwards. Now the demo still has very bad performance on my system. For that reason, when you're looking outside, you see that I've deactivated pretty much all of the 3D objects and stuff. And like that it runs fine, but it still has some stutters visible to it, even though my settings are pretty much all the way turned down now, as you can see on the screen right here. So, all the CPU settings are down, the graphics settings are up, but I tried to play around with this and it didn't make much of a difference. If you have some suggestions, I would be absolutely happy to hear them. But then again, in today's video we are mostly going to check out the flight model of X-Plane, because that is where people say X-Plane really shines. So, standing here in the Cessna 172 at Portland Airport, and we are going to take off, do a little bit of air work, then maybe a touch and go, and come back for a landing. Sounds good? Alright. Brake released, flaps 10, off we go. I did do a little bit of pattern work with the Cessna before I started recording this video, so this is maybe based on half an hour flight experience on the Cessna, so it pretty much still is my first impression, but with that half an hour coming before. Okay, we're up in the air, rotation was very nice. And what I like is that I need a little bit of right-hand rudder here in order to keep my airplane going straight. This is more pronounced than what I recall from Microsoft Flight Simulator, and in the real life you certainly needed that. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue our climb and climb up to maybe 1,000 feet of altitude, and then we are going to do a little bit of air work. So, flaps up. And I know some of you are going to ask, yes, I will try out the Cibo as well, provided I can get it to run, because so far my experience is that whenever I started to run it, X-Plane froze up the entire computer and I needed to do a hard reboot using the on and off switch on my computer's case. So that's somewhat what I'm struggling with at the moment, but hoping that I can get that solved, you can be sure I'm going to do a video on the Cibo as well. Alright, initially going to climb up to 1,000 feet altitude, and we'll just about stay over the water next to Portland over here, and then do a little bit of air work. So as the airplane speed increases, our controls should get more effective, so let's go ahead and try that out. We're at 1,000 feet now. I'm simply going to leave takeoff power in, and let the airplane accelerate, and then we'll see how it feels like. The controls would become a lot more heavy in the real plane, since the force of the air acting on the controls basically increases with the square of our velocity. So things should get more interesting as we pick up speed. For now, normal cruising speed, the airplane is handling quite nice. Let's just pitch down a bit in order to really gain some speed and see what it feels like then. Right, 140, about as fast as I took a real 172. And indeed, it seems like it is responding a little bit stronger. And also notice how I don't need any rudder as I'm making turns at that speed. So that is quite alright. That is how I would expect a Cessna to behave. Okay then, back to 1,000. Now let's do the same. And now look at the adverse yaw as I'm turning my controls. It didn't do that at the it did not do that at the higher speed, which is exactly what I would expect. So next up, we did the high speed. Let's do a little bit of low speed here. Power to idle. Just making sure we aren't flying too far away from Portland Airport. By the way, in the background you can notice all those stutters that I'm getting. And that's even with those graphic settings. I don't really understand what it's doing there. And unfortunately, when I Google for it, all I find in the X-Plane forums is answers to the same question saying like, oh, this has been discussed to death, you use the search. Then I use the search and all that comes up is that. Okay, getting down to stall, recover. Okay, back to 1,000. Let's do the same with flaps. So, flaps getting out to maximum. Trim it out, okay, power off. Okay, that looks good. So let's retract the flaps now and see if we can make the plane bank over. So let's give it a bit of a pitch. Idle thrust. Right rudder. Oh, it's turning. Nice. Okay, we got it. So that was quite alright, I have to say. And this, by the way, brings us into a nice left downwind for our touch and go. So let's bleed off a bit of that speed. Get out some flaps. I'll go flaps full straight away. And over there is a nice little runway straight ahead. What I notice over here, compared to my previous Microsoft Flight Simulator experiences, is that the trim is a lot more accurate. I need to retrim the airplane basically all the time whenever I do some changes. Even small power changes cause quite some pitching. Like, look at this. I'm pulling the power, straight away the nose goes down. Now I'm pushing the power in, and the nose immediately starts coming up. So that is quite cool indeed. And that just feels a bit better than it did in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay then, let's get the speed down to 60 knots, which should be our approach speed in the Cessna. Obviously this is an unstabilized approach, but you get where we are going with this. Okay, power idle, flare, hold it, hold it, hold it, down. Okay, so flaps coming up, let go around power, rotate, and we are up again. So let's do one more landing, and then we have probably already used up the 15 minutes that you can use X-Plane with the free demo version. Just taking things around the corner here a little bit quicker, since I want to be sure that I'm not running into that time limitation. Again, I did purchase the full version, but it just wouldn't run, it would constantly crash. So for that reason I went over to the demo, which seems to work better. I'm thinking about refunding the Steam version and then purchasing the full copy of the demo, which should hopefully run as well then. But still thinking about it. Okay, so nice left-hand downwind. Power back, some 1800 RPMs should normally work fine in the Cessnas. And they work fine in here as well, very good. Okay, flaps 10, turning base. You can immediately feel the pitching moment of the flaps. I quite like that. But you can also immediately see the stutters when the airport comes in. Flaps down. Let's turn final. Okay, 60 knots is looking good. Let's give it a little bit of power to extend our glide, to make sure that we actually reach the runway threshold, rather the displaced runway threshold. Okay, that looks good to me. So this one is nice and stabilized. We're aiming for the piano keys right now. Okay, here we come. Power to idle. And you can really feel the plane drop. Flare down. Okay, perfect. Tires seem to skid a little as I'm using full brakes. And here we are. Alright, so that is my first few traffic patterns with the Cessna in X-Plane. What's my impression of the flight model then? Well, the flight model certainly is good. It certainly feels more dynamic than some of the modern days simulators, namely Microsoft. But it doesn't feel that much better, to be honest. There is more detail in there, but I think for the vast majority of flying that I'm doing, it doesn't make that much of a difference. The biggest difference certainly is on landing. You pull the power, the plane really goes down, and you can put it precisely on those piano keys. In the Microsoft Sim, I could always struggle with that and the plane floats into eternity, but, well, I'm going to do a second video where I'm going to do a direct comparison between X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. So looking forward to that and to see you over there. Again, if you have any recommendations on what I need to try out in X-Plane, then I'm looking forward to those. First of all, obviously, getting my graphics up and running. But then again, graphics are one thing. We know from all the videos of the people who got the sim running in full that the Microsoft Sim is looking better, but we also know that the X-Plane Sim is flying better. So let's go ahead and determine a little bit more about that. Thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one. And in the meantime, like, leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. I'm looking forward to see you all in the virtual skies, regardless whichever simulator it is. Oh, and a last point, since I know that some of you might be worried that, oh no, 737NG driver isn't going to X-Plane, is he? No worries, guys. MSFS will remain my primary simulator, but so many of you gave me comments on how good X-Plane would be that I simply have to try it for myself.